It's an illusion to think that processed food is cheap, because you end up paying for it with diabetes. You end up paying for it with autoimmune dysregulation, with mitochondrial dysfunction.
How safe is your freezer? Really, Aldi sells millions of frozen meals every year, promising convenience, savings, and even healthy choices. But did you know listeria kills nearly 1 in 5 seniors infected? Or that some of Aldi's plant-based patties tested high for toxic metals like lead and arsenic? What about hepatitis, a hiding in frozen fruit, or ice cream bars sending children to the ER? These aren't rare accidents. They're documented recalls, lawsuits, and scandals that most shoppers never hear about until it's too late. If the food you trust is slowly poisoning you one bite at a time, would you even notice before it's too late? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we're exposing 7 Aldi frozen foods that are slowly ruining your health, and why every trip to the frozen aisle may be a risk you didn't bargain for. Number 1. Kirkwood frozen chicken. You ever notice how some things smile at you just a little too much? Kirkwood frozen chicken sits there in Aldi's freezer aisle, grinning like the friendly guy at the end of the street who always waves but never looks you in the eye. The neat packaging, the cheerful colors, the promises of convenience and savings, they play right into what folks want to believe. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's supposed to be safe. That's the picture Aldi paints, like a Sunday church picnic where everyone's happy and fed. But you know how it goes. Sometimes the prettiest pie on the table is the one hiding the rotten fruit. And, there's plenty rotten here. How do you feel knowing that over 2 million pounds of this chicken were yanked off shelves in October of 2019 under a USDA class, I recall? The kind of recall that screams serious illness or death, undeclared milk, and egg allergens. They said, can you imagine sitting down for dinner, maybe with your grandkids, and one bite sends someone gasping for air because Kirkwood couldn't be bothered to print a proper label that isn't a typo? That's like leaving a loaded shotgun propped against the high chair. But wait, it gets slimier. Salmonella enteritis didn't just threaten people, it already made 15 of them sick in 2015, spread across 7 states. Investigators painted a picture of a processing floor where raw chicken juice pooled and splashed, contaminating cooked products. One worker said trying to clean it was like mopping a swamp with a paper towel. Can you picture that a place so sloppy it might as well have been gambling with your immune system for sport? And ethics well. Aldi's promise of responsible sourcing might make for a nice commercial, but the reality is uglier than a fox in the henhouse. In 2020, undercover footage from a Kirkwood supplier showed workers kicking live birds, tossing them like sandbags, leaving them to suffocate under piles of their own dead flock. Folks who grew up ringing chickens for dinner didn't even flinch back then. But this is cruelty so cheap it makes a rusty trap look merciful. And Aldi still did business with that supplier long after the scandal hit daylight. Think that's the worst picture, biting into what's supposed to be a tender chicken strip and hitting metal? That actually happened. In June of 2021, Kirkwood frozen breaded strips were recalled for metal fragments, and 4 people were already hurt before Aldi fessed up. For anyone with fragile teeth or trouble swallowing, that's not a bad bite. It's a ticket to the ER. And if the metal doesn't get you, maybe the salt will. Aldi has the nerve to sell Kirkwood as the healthier family choice, but Consumer Reports in 2022 found Kirkwood nuggets packing nearly 30% more sodium than Tyson's. That's like swapping a wolf for another, only this one's just wearing a thrift store sheep costume. So maybe it's worth thinking twice before trusting that grin in the freezer aisle. Bell & Evans has built a cleaner reputation with better welfare standards, and Purdue's Simply Smart Organics has managed to keep its recall history spotless. Or, if you've got a bit of patience, buying fresh chicken from local markets and freezing it yourself might be the only way to stop wondering whether tonight's dinner is hiding a metal shard or a health scare, because sometimes paying that extra dollar now is cheaper than paying with your health later. Number 2. Fremont Fish Market frozen seafood. Ever wonder why that bag of seafood in Aldi's freezer aisle feels like such a steal? Fremont Fish Market sits there, dressed in bright blue waves and bold, wild-caught freshness, promises, whispering to folks who can't afford restaurant prices that they too can have a little taste of the ocean. For retirees who grew up on stories of honest fishermen hauling in their daily catch, or families far from the coast craving a bit of seaside comfort. Fremont feels like a gift wrapped with good intentions, but sometimes a gift box hides more than disappointment. It hides things you wouldn't even let your dog lick off the floor. Take the big secret grocery chains never want plastered across headlines mislabeling. In 2021, a DNA study by Oceana found seafood sold under private labels. Yes, including those just like Fremont, was mislabeled at rates up to 21% nationwide. Folks thought they were buying wild-caught Atlantic cod, but often got cheaper farm-raised Pangasius from industrial Vietnamese fish farms. And here's the kicker, Pangasius from those farms has repeatedly tested positive for banned antibiotics and malachite green, a chemical the FDA flags as a potential carcinogen. So, while Aldi's bag sings wild caught, you might actually be thawing out a fillet raised in a dirty pond where the water's as questionable as the promises on that label. And if that doesn't make your stomach turn, let's talk contamination. In February of 2023, the USDA import refusal list flagged multiple shipments of frozen seafood from suppliers tied to U.S. retailers, including some that Fremont sources from, for salmonella contamination. Aldi quietly pulled certain batches, but made no big public announcement, leaving people blissfully unaware their shrimp cocktail could come with a hospital visit. One Ohio family reported their elderly mother landed in the ER with severe dehydration after eating Fremont shrimp. Aldi shrugged it off, saying no direct link was proven. Isn't it funny how that excuse seems to show up right when wallets, not health, are the real priority? But nothing stinks worse than what happens before that seafood even reaches the bag. The Associated Press exposed in 2017 that Southeast Asian suppliers used by Fremont relied on forced labor and child workers trapped in horrific conditions, men beaten, locked on boats for months, some even killed for trying to escape. Picture this, you're sitting in your kitchen thawing out Fremont calamari for a cheap Friday dinner. And halfway across the globe, someone risked his life, and sometimes lost it, just so you could save a few bucks. Aldi likes to brag about family-friendly prices, but how friendly is it when the cost is paid in bruises and broken bones, and don't think the problems are all happening overseas? In 2020, customers complained that Fremont's frozen fillets often smelled like ammonia once thawed, a sign of partial spoilage or improper storage. One former Aldi employee admitted online that pallets of frozen seafood sometimes sat out too long during deliveries, but managers told us to just stick them in the freezer and sell them. That's not quality control. That's like leaving milk out in the sun all day and pretending it's fresh because you shoved it back in the fridge before anyone noticed. If seafood still calls your name, better options exist that won't leave you worrying what's hidden under the ice. Wild Planet has earned respect for clean, sustainable wild-caught fish. And though it costs more, at least you're not rolling dice with antibiotics or human misery. Gorton's Smart and Crunchy line has kept a solid safety record, using fisheries regulated under stricter U.S. standards. And if you're watching every penny, local Asian markets often sell flash frozen fish where you can actually ask where it came from. No glossy packaging, no pretty blue waves, but at least you won't be serving your family a side of scandal with dinner. Number 3, Mama Cozzi's frozen pizzas. Funny how a cardboard box can feel so comforting. Isn't it Mama Cozzi's frozen pizzas sit in Aldi's freezer aisle like an old friend, plastered with photos of gooey cheese and perfectly arranged pepperoni, almost winking at you as if to say, relax, I've got you covered, for working class families scraping by and retirees counting every dollar. It feels like a Friday night miracle. Toss it in the oven. Pour a soda. And pretend the kitchen just turned into a pizzeria. But peel back that cheery smile on the box, and what you'll find isn't just a burnt crust. It's a pile of secrets that might make you think twice before taking another bite. Start with the part you can't see, but your heart will surely feel the salt and hidden fats. Independent tests by Consumer Lab in 2022 revealed Mama Cozzi's 5-cheese pizza packs over 1,100 milligrams of sodium in a single slice, nearly half the recommended daily intake for seniors, gone in just a few bites. Worse yet, lab analysis picked up partially hydrogenated oils in certain varieties, even though Aldi boasted about eliminating trans fats years ago for anyone managing high blood pressure or heart problems. That's not a pizza, it's a slow-motion heart attack with extra mozzarella thrown in for decoration. And, of course, Aldi won't mention that in its ads, they just call it restaurant quality. which might be true if your idea of a restaurant is a greasy spoon that doesn't own a health inspection grade, and health isn't even the only thing to worry about. The production story is its own nightmare. Back in March of 2019, one of Aldi's contract facilities making Mamakazi's dough was cited by the FDA for rodent infestation. Inspectors found live mice darting across flour storage racks, droppings sprinkled around dough mixers, and ingredient bags gnawed open like a buffet for pests. Picture that baked into your dinner. It sticks in your mind. Doesn't it? Aldi may have switched facilities afterward, but not before hundreds of thousands of pizzas, made under those same filthy conditions, landed in shopping carts across the country. And if you think the only ones suffering are customers, think again. In 2020, the Chicago Tribune uncovered that a major frozen pizza supplier tied to Mamakazi's was exploiting undocumented workers in brutal conditions. 12-hour shifts in rooms kept at 32 degrees, few breaks, and injuries ignored while supervisors barked. Keep the line moving. So while Aldi's commercials show families laughing around the dinner table, the reality behind the scenes looks closer to a frozen sweatshop where human suffering is just part of the recipe. Then there's what's hiding in the ingredients themselves. The Environmental Working Group's 2021 testing of frozen pizza sauces found traces of glyphosate, a controversial herbicide linked to cancer risk, in several brands, including Mamakazi's. Aldi shrugs, insisting the levels are within legal limits. But ask yourself this if you already struggle with blood pressure or heart problems. Do you really want to chase your pills with a side of weed killer? And don't get too cozy with the promise of real mozzarella, either. Check the fine print. Many Mamakazi's varieties use processed cheese substitutes mixed with starches and vegetable oils. It's like buying a pickup truck and realizing the engine's made of plastic. Sure, it runs, but don't expect it to last long or perform the way it should. If pizza still calls your name, you don't have to swear it off entirely. Just choose smarter. Amy's Kitchen frozen pizzas are a pricier but cleaner option, with organic ingredients and no big recall scandals in recent years. California Pizza Kitchen's frozen line is easier on the wallet and is tested better nutritionally, without the contamination baggage. And for those who can spare a little kitchen time, grabbing fresh dough from a local bakery, topping it with real cheese and vegetables, and freezing portions yourself gives you control over every slice. In the end, the only thing worse than a cheap pizza is realizing the real price you're paying isn't in dollars, it's in your health. Number 4. Bremer Frozen Meals. Bremer Frozen Meals sit in Aldi's freezer like a comforting pat on the back, promising tired families and worn-out retirees that someone understands their struggle. The bright boxes, splashed with photos of smiling families and warm names like country fried chicken with mashed potatoes, seem to whisper, "Don't worry, we'll take care of you." For folks who barely have the energy to cook after a long day, or for seniors trying to save every ounce of strength, Bremer feels like a dependable friend waiting behind frosted glass. But here's the thing about friends who talk too sweetly. Sometimes, they're hiding a knife behind their back. The first cut comes from something you can't see, but your heart will surely feel. Consumer Reports in 2020 analyzed Bremer's Country Fried Chicken meal and found it loaded with over 1,600 milligrams of sodium per serving, enough to blow past a senior's entire daily limit in one sitting. And some Bremer pasta dishes carried more than 10 grams of added sugar, almost on par with candy bars. It's almost laughable. In a dark way, Aldi might as well slip a coupon for blood pressure meds into every box. Calling this home-cooked taste is like calling a flood a light spring shower. And that's only the start. In July of 2018, Bremer's frozen green bean casserole meals were pulled in a multi-state recall for potential Listeria monocytogenes contamination. Listeria isn't just an upset stomach. It kills nearly 260 Americans every year, with seniors making up a heartbreaking share of the deaths. The contamination traced back to a vegetable supplier cited for filthy conditions, including standing water and rusted equipment dripping directly over food prep areas. Aldi removed the product quietly, leaving only tiny recall notices in stores. Many customers likely ate those meals completely unaware that they might as well have been playing bingo with their lives. And what about honesty that went out the window too? In 2019, Aldi faced a class action lawsuit accusing them of false advertising on Bremer's Healthy Choice lasagna bowls, which were found to contain over 40% more saturated fat than the label claimed. One diabetic woman from Missouri said she trusted that label to manage her diet until she ended up with serious health complications. Aldi settled the case privately, which in corporate language translates to, "We'd rather pay than tell you the truth." The problems don't end at the dinner table. Bremer's suppliers have faced ugly accusations of labor abuse. A Bloomberg investigation in 2020 linked one of their contract facilities to forced overtime, workers collapsing from heat exhaustion, and injuries ignored in packaging plants where temperatures soared over 90 degrees. A former worker summed it up bitterly. It was like a sweatshop, just with freezers instead of fans. So much for that wholesome family image on the box. And if you think these are just rare horror stories, check the complaints from regular shoppers. Aldi forums are littered with reports of bone fragments in Bremer chicken meals, mystery gristle in beef pastas, and vegetables so mushy they smelled sour when cooked. One frustrated customer even joked, "The only thing home cooked about Bremer is the disappointment." Sad thing is, that might be the most honest review they've ever gotten, but you do have better choices if convenience is what you're after. Lean Cuisine's balance bowls cut down on sodium and stick closer to FDA nutrition guidelines, while Evel frozen meals have earned a reputation for cleaner sourcing and more transparent ingredients. And if money's tight, it doesn't take much effort to buy a bag of frozen vegetables and some pre-cooked rotisserie chicken to make quick bowls at home. It cooks just as fast, and at least you won't have to wonder if the country-style chicken you're eating is hiding a side of bacteria or regret. Number 5. Earthgrown vegan frozen products. Earthgrown was Aldi's shiny badge of virtue, their way of saying, "We care about your health, and we care about the planet." The sleek green boxes, stamped with words like plant-based and meat alternative, feel almost saintly, as if every bite is a small act of kindness to your body and to the world. For older Americans worried about heart disease, or for anyone trying to feel just a little better about what's on their plate, it looks like the perfect compromise: healthy, ethical, and easy on the wallet. But peel back that halo, and what's underneath feels more like a bad joke than a good deed. The first betrayal hidden poisons dressed up as health food. Independent testing by the Clean Label Project in 2022 revealed that several plant-based frozen patties, including products supplied under Aldi's Earthgrown label, carried elevated levels of lead, cadmium, and arsenic. These metals come from contaminated soil where soy or pea protein is grown, and they aren't harmless. Long-term exposure has been linked to kidney failure and cognitive decline, risks that are especially alarming for seniors already struggling with memory or chronic conditions. Aldi didn't step forward to warn anyone. The findings only became public when watchdog groups blew the whistle. Selling clean eating while slipping toxic metals into the mix, that's like selling bottled spring water from a rusty pipe. And if that makes you cringe, the labeling games might make you laugh. Bitterly. In 2020, consumer advocacy group Truth in Advertising accused Aldi of slapping non-GMO on some Earthgrown vegan products, even though they sourced soy protein from farms growing genetically modified crops. Aldi quietly adjusted some labels after the complaint but never admitted wrongdoing. Imagine buying what you thought was a pesticide-free salad only to learn it came straight from a lawn sprayed with weed killer. That's the level of trust Aldi shattered with Earthgrown's glowing promises. But the hypocrisy doesn't stop at the farm. It's baked right into the supply chain. Labor rights investigations in 2021 exposed one of Earthgrown's main overseas suppliers in Thailand for exploiting migrant workers. 14-hour shifts, almost no breaks, overcrowded dorms with no air conditioning, while Aldi bragged in ads about being kind to the planet. Maybe they forgot that the planet also includes the people who live on it. The irony would be funny if it weren't so cruel. And as if that weren't enough to sour your appetite, the quality complaints are piling up too. In August of 2023, customers reported to Aldi's hotline that Earthgrown vegan meatballs smelled like ammonia after cooking, a telltale sign of protein breakdown from improper freezing. Former Aldi employees anonymously admitted that Earthgrown shipments sometimes arrive partially thawed, and managers just tell us to refreeze them fast. That isn't just sloppy, it's like reheating yesterday's milk and pretending it's fresh, all while daring you to eat it. If plant-based eating still sounds appealing, there are better ways to do it without playing roulette with your health. Doctor. Prager's Pure Plant Protein line has been independently tested for lower heavy metal levels and sources vegetables from U.S. farms. Hillary's Eat Well has earned praise for allergen-friendly. minimally processed ingredients that are far more honest than fancy marketing slogans. And if you can spare a few extra minutes, making your own veggie patties at home with canned beans, oats, and spices, then freezing them yourself, gives you full control over what's going into your body. Because in the end, a plant-based diet shouldn't feel like swallowing guilt wrapped in green packaging. Sometimes the real revolution starts with your own frying pan, not a corporate freezer. Number 6. Season's Choice Frozen Vegetables. Season's Choice sits in Aldi's freezer aisle like a polite reminder from your childhood. Eat your vegetables. The neat plastic bags, decorated with bright, happy greens, feel like a pat on the back for doing the right thing. For seniors living on tight budgets, it seems like a blessing, affordable, nutritious, easy to cook, and a guilt-free way to fill the plate. Aldi markets it as the ultimate healthy choice, almost making you feel virtuous for tossing a bag into your cart. But behind that cheerful green packaging lurks a truth that feels less like a healthy decision and more like a bad punchline, because these vegetables are anything but innocent. The first betrayal contamination so widespread it reads like a horror story. In June of 2018, Season's Choice frozen cut green beans were swept into a nationwide listeria and salmonella recall, part of over 12 million pounds of frozen vegetables sourced from Growers Express, one of Aldi's key suppliers. Listeria isn't just a complicated science term, it kills nearly 1 in 5 people who get it, with seniors most at risk. What's worse, FDA inspections later revealed that the supplier's plant had standing pools of filthy water, peeling paint flaking directly above production lines, and machines crusted with old food residue. Yet Aldi kept stocking those vegetables until the recall forced their hand. For anyone who believed a bag of frozen peas was the safest bet in the aisle, that's a slap in the face disguised as a green sticker. And this wasn't some rare, freak accident. In April 2020, Aldi recalled Season's Choice frozen raspberries for potential hepatitis A contamination, traced back to a Chilean supplier. Think about that fruit marketed as heart healthy, carrying a virus that attacks your liver. A retiree in Florida even filed a lawsuit after being hospitalized with severe complications. And Aldi quietly settled it once the headlines started to sting. A bag of frozen raspberries turning into a hospital bill. What's healthy about that? Even when the vegetables aren't contaminated, storage practices raise eyebrows. Multiple Aldi employees have shared on consumer forums that frozen vegetable pallets often sit for hours on unrefrigerated loading docks during shipment delays. One former worker joked, "Some of those veggies spent more warm afternoons than my garden." It might sound funny until you think about what temperature swings do to frozen produce. Nutritional breakdown, mushy textures, and the perfect breeding ground for bacteria long before the bag ever makes it to your freezer. And here's where Aldi's marketing halo really cracks. Season's Choice proudly slaps sustainably sourced on some of its bags, but Greenpeace investigations in 2021 linked certain suppliers to farms exploiting low-wage migrant labor. Workers described being forced into 12-hour harvest shifts, sleeping in overcrowded dorms with barely functional plumbing, all so Aldi could sell ethical produce overseas. Aldi only cut ties months after the report, long after customers had unknowingly funded this abuse with every healthy purchase. Number 7. Sunday Shop Frozen Desserts. Sunday Shop looks like pure joy frozen in a box. The pastel colors, playful swirls, and cheerful font practically sing nostalgia, promising the kind of simple happiness you remember from summer afternoons long past. It feels tailor-made for grandparents slipping treats to wide-eyed grandkids, or for retirees enjoying a quiet evening reward after a long day. Aldi sells it as an affordable way to enjoy life's sweeter side, a scoop of comfort without the guilt of overspending, but under that rainbow of sprinkles and syrup. The truth is far from sweet. It's enough to make you lose your appetite entirely. The first sour note strikes hard, undeclared allergens. In August of 2022, Aldi recalled Sunday Shop vanilla bean ice cream bars because they might contain peanuts and tree nuts not listed on the label. For families dealing with allergies, that isn't a small mistake. It's a loaded gun in a candy wrapper. One Ohio mother reported her 6-year-old daughter landed in the emergency room after a severe allergic reaction to what was supposed to be a nut-free bar. That's not an innocent oversight. It's a near-fatal gamble hidden behind pastel packaging, and if that isn't enough to rattle your nerves. Imagine biting into something cold and creamy, only to feel sharp plastic between your teeth. In April 2021, customers complained about plastic fragments embedded in Sunday Shop ice cream sandwiches. Social media lit up with photos of half-melted bars next to jagged pieces of plastic, and Aldi quietly pulled affected batches. But for older Americans with dentures or fragile teeth, one bite could mean a broken crown, or worse, a choking incident that ends in a hospital visit instead of a sweet evening treat. Even if you dodge allergens and foreign objects, the health risks are baked right in. Sunday Shop frozen desserts are stuffed with artificial dyes like Red 40 and Yellow 5, additives linked to hyperactivity and potential cancer risks. According to the Center for Science in the Public Interest, these dyes are banned or heavily restricted in Europe, yet Aldi still loads them into American products, as if US seniors and children are somehow less deserving of safety. That hypocrisy tastes worse than freezer-burned ice cream. And the ugly truth doesn't stop at ingredients. In 2020, labor rights groups exposed one of Aldi's dairy suppliers for abusive animal practices, including cows left untreated for infections and workers filmed striking animals with metal rods. Aldi issued the usual corporate line about taking animal welfare seriously, but kept sourcing from the supplier for months afterward, so while you're licking a cheerful Sunday Shop cone, the reality behind it is anything but kind. And don't fall for the made with real dairy claim too quickly. Many Sunday Shop varieties rely on cheap milk fat replacers and hydrogenated oils to mimic creaminess. That means higher trans fat levels, a dangerous cocktail for seniors already watching their cholesterol. For something sold as a simple pleasure, it might be quietly pushing you toward health complications with every spoonful. If this makes you rethink what's really hiding in your freezer, you're not alone. We dig up these truths because your health, your family, and your trust deserve better than being sold out for profit. Stay informed, protect your health. Demand honesty, never settle for less. Subscribe now, because the truth they hide could save your life.
Thank you for watching today's video all the way through. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe to stay updated to our latest daily videos. Now feel free to check out other feature videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.